judgment. And Reno Omokri tackles obedience. Details now. The world news begins with the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress concluding plans to embark on a 2-day one-inch strike beginning from September 5 to 6, 2023. President of the NLC, who handed down the threats in Abuja on Friday, warned that the union would mobilize its affiliates to embark on indefinite strike if the federal government does not take steps to address the excruciating pains Nigerians face at the moment. Ajero said the union arrived at the decision after a National Executive Council meeting in Abuja. Beyond the strike threats, NLC has accused the federal government of meddling in the union's affairs, especially the activities of the National Union of Road Transport Workers. The union also lamented that the masses were going through pains following the removal of fuel subsidy, lamenting that there is nothing tangible to ameliorate the suffering of the masses. They also complained about the new minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, of all the plans he has against the poor masses. Let's take a listen to Joe Ajero addressing comrades today.
See it clearly that this is a class war between us, the dispossessed, and those that have to continue to have. Whether you call it the issue of subsidy or the new attack by the despot Wike,
yes, I'm here.
To drive the poor out of Abuja.
Okay, no problem.
It is still the extension of that war. It is a war.
I wasn't hearing what you were saying.
Whereby they tell you that you are building in a place that is not part of the master plan. And the master plan is only known to them. The master plan is in their pocket.
Yes, yes.
And when you are building, they will tell you it's not complying with the master plan, and they will wake up, demolish your house. And the NLC is saying that those structures are not illegal structures. Those structures should be legalized. Those areas they are demolishing, unless you have an alternative. There is no area they marked out, either quarter plot or half plot, for the poor to live in Abuja. And when the poor manage to get a small shelter, it is being demolished on daily basis. It is a war against the poor. And I wouldn't know with the havoc Wike caused in Rivers State and the number of people that died as a result of shock. If he continues it in Abuja, the number of people that Adolf Hitler killed under the gas chambers will be a child's play. The number of people that will die because of shock over the demolition of their buildings. Some of them are using their pension, their last cover, to erect such buildings. So if he doesn't check it, because the moment he came here, he started destroying people's properties. I've not seen that level of wickedness being performed against the Nigerian poor. The issue of attack on the office of the National Union of Road Transport Employees is an extension of this war. A democratically elected trade union functionaries, and you send police to attack them and bring non-members to claim that they are the caretaker committee leaders. What is happening there is worse than the coup in Niger. The Nigerian government should concentrate on the illegalities, on the level of fascism being practiced in Nigeria, than talking about the coup and removal of democratically elected government in Gabon and Niger Republic, when they are removing democratically elected people in Nigeria internally. So I think we should check ourselves, check the level of attack on the poor, on trade unionists and the masses. Now we go to the issue of the subsidy, so-called subsidy removal. They said it was by market forces. And they didn't have time to prepare a palliative for us. The first one came, 500 and something. The next one came, market forces, 600 and something. And we met with the government, and they promised to do something to conclude action within 8 weeks. Today is almost 12 weeks. Nothing has happened, comrades. And there was a further attempt by the same market forces to move it to 700. And we want market forces say, if you move it, we are going to meet with you. And behold, the spokesperson of Mr. President came out to attack us that we don't know what we are saying. Comrades, is the spokesperson of Mr. President the market force? Is he the market forces? And up to now, nothing has happened. The National Assembly, thank you very much. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Labor walked in where I was trying to talk. Thank you very much for identifying with us. The National Assembly intervened and said we should give them 1 week. Within 1 week, we met with the Senate President, and he had promised to meet with the
Now I have the telephone a legal practitioner, a political analyst, and a social affairs commentator, Barrister Ijeoma Egwuatu. If you are not on YouTube, I'll tell you to kindly subscribe so you can virtually be part of the interview conversation that we're going to be having now. Barrister Ijeoma Egwuatu, good evening and welcome to VOP World News at 6.
Thank you for having me virtually in your studio.
Thank you so much, Barrister. So here is the development, or rather the scenario that is on ground at the moment. With what the NLC is saying, we have had several issues in the past week. The palliative, the monies that have been given to the state government to quell the effect of the subsidy removal. And the NLC is saying that they are going to embark on a strike on the 5th of September, which is on Tuesday next week. Is a quite unfortunate scenario. There, Nigerians have complained about the inconsistency with the NLC's declaration about strike actions, whereby they prepare for the strike, and then when it is the particular day, the NLC may have had, an overnight meeting with the federal government, and their minds have been changed. But Joe Ajaro, based on what we listen to now, is saying certainly that the pains of Nigeria cannot be left at the bay or left behind. Now, prior to this, in June 23, President Bola Tinubu's studentship at the Chicago State University in the United States was confirmed. Now, the university made the confirmation following a request by Nigeria media in a bid to seek the truth regarding allegations surrounding his academic qualification. Now, a lot of analysts have come up to talk about that certificate. In fact, throughout the week last week, it was a topic of conversation across all media forums. Putting this pari passu with the current reality on ground, a lot of Nigerians do not trust the president because of this kind of situation. They do not trust the remarks that he makes. They do not trust the remarks coming from his spokesperson. How do you think Nigerians should cope with the recent reality?
Well, the reality is that it's unfortunate that we are in this mess that this country has been. But when people keep on referring to Bola Tinubu as the president, I keep on saying this man is the placeholder president.
No, Barrister Eze.
No, I said I keep on referring to him. I'm not saying he's the relative to me.
All right.
And the reason for that is because he's still ongoing because they are pending. It is unfortunate that we have a system that will have somebody in office as president when his case is still being tried. And all these kind of issues about certificates, forgery, and all whatnot is flying around. It is quite unfortunate. And for me, for my sanity, for that of many Nigerians, referring to this character as president is a bit mind-boggling. I keep on calling him the placeholder president. You ask, how will Nigerians cope with the situation?
Yes.
The reality is this. the Labour man has, the president, Labour Union president is rehashing what we have been used to. This was how Adams Oshiomhole came and rigmarole, mesmerized Nigerians that he will go on strike, he will do this. Nigerians never knew that in the middle of the night, things will exchange hands and the man will be called, strikes will be called over. We should now begin to think beyond the National Nigerian Labour Congress. Because you ask yourself, how many Nigerians are actually members of the NLC? How many Nigerians are actually working in ministries or parastatals or members of these unions? That it is less than 2% of Nigerians. So if we really want to move forward, we have to look beyond the NLC. We have to try to galvanize civil society and overcome the obstacles which are placed in front of us. The moment we keep on looking at the NLC, guess what will happen? Before the 5th, when they plan to do that, the Nigerian Industrial Court will give an order that if they go on strike, that strike will be illegal. And on the 4th of the day before the strike is supposed to commence, the same NLC will come and say, okay, take it easy. They are still looking at it, they are discussing, and they will keep on telling us all this crap. And we have gone through this process for over 20 years, and we're still willing to go through that process. Nigerians should wisen up. We should wisen up. These stories have been churning on left and center for too long, and it will continue. I will assure you, the Nigerian court will give an order before that 5th day that there will be no strike, and everybody will go to your tent, and the suffering continues. We have to think outside the box. That's how other countries are able to overcome their challenges. We can't be doing the same thing that led us into failure with Adams Oshiomhole, with all the labor union leaders, and we are ready to still continue doing the same kind of stuff with the current leadership. Nigerians, if you really want to get out of this problem, think beyond the Nigerian Labour Congress. Be people, organize yourself in your locality and think of how to solve this crisis, because the NLC is not the way forward. You also mentioned the issue of the Bola Tinubu, that is Chicago State University.
Yes.
That it was okay. That school should be ashamed of itself.
Really? Why do you think so?
Why I say so? And the school knows it's ashamed of itself. It has had to pull down its Twitter handle. It has had to close so many of the social media handles because it has been reeling out inconsistencies. It has reeled out that the Tinubu that was in their school was a female. It has reeled out that Nandi certificate is okay. And we know that there are different signatures on the same certificate. Different dates on the same certificate. And this brings us to in 2011. There is now in the public domain a letter that was said to have been written by the CIA to the EFCC, which confirmed that Tinubu did not even go to any Chicago State University, for goodness sake. Now, with all this going on, you now wonder, the office of the president should be above board, that is above saying, that should be a role model to all Nigerians from all walks of life. Now, with a character who is smeared by all these issues of forgery, misapplication of all lies and so many things, how can any genuine Nigerian look at this man and say, this is my president? That is why, to me, Bola Tinubu remains the placeholder president until the courts rule otherwise, until the court gives a final adjudication on the petitions that are before it.
Barrister Eze, this is where the quagmire becomes quite challenging, or rather, this is where the challenge becomes quite confusing. The presidential spokesman, Ajuri Ngolali, has come out to say that all of these stories that we hear circulating all over in social media are mere distractions, and that he has actually implored Nigerians to focus on the reality on ground, which is the current economic state and the policies President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has put in place to push the economy forward, to push the country forward. He also mentioned the situation with Gabon and Niger. These are compounding factors, considering the fragile military architecture that we have and the security consequences this will pose on us. That is the current situation with Gabon and Niger, the kind of message it is sending. The presidential spokesman has told Nigerians to be careful with the utterances they make and say that they should help the president to focus on the policies that he says would help reposition the country. But we come back to the question, if we have leadership, if we have government that the people cannot trust anything they say. When the government is sincere with whatever remarks they say as to how the government intends to put them first, do you think this time around that sense of trust will evolve or develop? Now, also recall that in the course of the week, there were several stories concerning this particular certificate. The president talked about the fact that asking the school to protect his privacy, that Nigerian bloggers are really trying to dig in, put in their claws, and that he doesn't want his image to be marred. We've also had a couple of international diplomats and analysts as well talk about this particular certificate. Now the question is, do you think Nigerians should just focus on how they can move forward, because it seems like some things are here to stay, or continue to question and question? And then what role do you think this school has played in marring our process, that is our governance administrative process?
Thank you. When you say Nigerians should focus on the policies of the government and its efforts to...
Yes, that's what Ajuri Ngolali had stated in one of the press conferences.
Good. When you even do that, you get more disheartened. Why do I say this? The very first policy statement Mr. President, the placeholder President Bola Tinubu made, was to declare that he had removed subsidies from fuel, which skyrocketed the price of everything in the country. I mean, putting more Nigerians into penury. Ever since then, many companies, conglomerates have announced their withdrawal from Nigeria. Smith Glasgow has left Nigeria. Some other companies are also thinking of leaving Nigeria. So when you look at even the policies, you now wonder, what is the policy that can give hope or can build trust that this government has reeled out? The government that tells us that we should tighten our belt, that same government goes ahead and announces the largest cabinet ever in the history of Nigeria, of 48 ministers, and it's telling them to tighten their belt. So when you even look at the so-called policies of this government, you get shocked. Is it the same the government that is even doing worse than Muhammadu Buhari did with regard to ethnocentric bigotry in terms of appointment of officials? The entire financial sector of the Nigerian economy is now located in the southwest. All the Minister of the Marine and Blue Economy, Minister of Finance, the Central Bank Governor, everything about the finance and economy of Nigeria is now stuck in the southwest. So when you look at the policies or the policy program of this government, you even get more worried and more disturbed, because the policies of this government is ethnocentric, it's really with bigotry, and it's not something that will even lead Nigeria to anywhere, any sense of hope.
But Barrister Esad, let me take you back to the statement you just made. You talked about sentiment and bigotry. When you talk of sentiment and bigotry, is it just attributed to this administration alone? Possibly because of our ethnic diversity, right? It is expected that administrations that come on board may consider their own home ethnic group for some top political appointments. So my question to you is it just only to this administration?
Yes. Why I say this nonsense started with Muhammadu Buhari, when he began to employ mainly people from his northern region at very key positions. Before then, when the former administration of Goodluck Jonathan, or that of Yaradua, or that of Olusegun Obasanjo, they chose it from across the board, all parts of the country. Now, Muhammadu Buhari came with his very ethnicized and bigoted government, and now Tinubu is building on that abyss. Is digging deeper into the abyss. Look at it. Check all the entire financial sector. They are all located in the southwest. The entire military sector, the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of State for Defense, it's all in one region of the country. And you leave some other parts of the country with nothing, and absolutely nothing. And you're talking of this government giving any Nigerian a sense of hope. Hope in what? Is it hope in hopelessness? We have to be very worried about where this government that has not even been approved by the court, by the judicial processes, and it's already doing as if there's no Nigerian that matters. Now, if this government now solidifies its position, you can imagine what will happen to Nigeria. That's why all Nigerians should be on guard.
All right.
And we should be ready. Yes, we should be on guard and ready to confront these illegalities, because these are actually illegalities and unconstitutional processes that this government is involved in. We
All
should
right.
confront it so that these things don't continue and get worse.
Okay, so Barrister Ezra, there is a reason why I'm asking these questions because of the current state of the economy, right? And the fact that NLC intends to commence strike next week, compounding with Nigerians waiting in bated breath to hear what the election tribunal would eventually conclude on, possibly in the next couple of weeks, since we have already entered September. I want to take you back to June 27. There was a report by International Center for Investigative Reporting, whereby the Chicago State University affirmed that the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is now, the principal of the political party, graduated from their institution. And the university made the affirmation in a response to an inquiry by the ICIR on that particular Monday. Now, the registrar in the Office of Records and Registration in the institution, who goes by the name Caleb Westberg, said Tinubu attended the university from August 1977 to June 1979. In fact, I want to read out what he quoted. He said, "Please be advised that Bola A. Tinubu attended Chicago State University from August 1977 to June 1979. And he stated that he was awarded a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with honors on June 22, 1979. While at the CSU, Westberg noted that Tinubu's major was in accounting." All right. Now they responded. Does it with a certified stamp on that letter? So does it mean there is a conspiracy at play here? Is there some bribery with this particular international community, whom a lot of Nigerians hold in high esteem when it comes to transparency and objectivity? That's one thing we also need to consider. Secondly, the president made mention that it was one of the clerks in the university that made a mistake with his name and gender. So this report, right, way back in June 27, and what is being reported now as to an unidentified clerk who made the error. So who is the clerk? A ghost? The clerk here was named here as Caleb Westberg, and all of a sudden there is no clerk with no name, and the particular clerk made an error. So when it comes to this kind of information coming from the presidency, where do Nigerians place themselves?
Well, this is what Mr. Bola Tinubu would have addressed himself and sorted out by himself, corrected himself, and bring out one line of story before coming out to aspire for presidency. Because now all these issues of whether he got a certificate, who signed it, whether it was Chicago State or whatsoever, is distracting and retarding Nigeria. Now, the impression that you have on youth, on children, on the growing population is that if the president of the country can have fake results, or the authenticity of his results is being doubted, why can't I also go and do fake results and get what I want? And it was, you recollect, it was under this presidency that a young girl went and faked her JAMB results and became the highest in JAMB. I wouldn't be surprised if that young girl was motivated by the fact that if we can still not be sure of the result of the certificate of the president of the country, why will any young person be told not to go and fake? That is why we have to be very careful in the person we put as our flag bearer, whether it's a president or as the governor, because they automatically become role models. The youth look up to them. And once the person is tainted, in one way or the other, that stain becomes a role model to the youth. So do we want a Nigeria where certificate forgery or even on being uncertain of your results become an issue, become the normal day-to-day affair? That is why, if I was Mr. Tinubu, I would have withdrawn from this presidency for the sake of Nigeria.
But he doesn't consider that a priority now, because he feels like he has the right policies that will steer Nigeria and its democracy in the right direction. So
Which policy? Is it the policy of increasing the price of fuel? Is it the policy of having the highest number of cabinets? Is it the policy of driving around with 120 cars in your convoy when most Nigerians cannot afford to fuel their cars? Is it the policy of distributing palliatives in cups to streets? What is the policy that he says he has? This man came in with absolutely no ideas, and Nigeria is dottering from left to right, moving like a ship without rudder in the sea. And how long can this process continue? So let's not talk of his policies, because the more we go into the policies revealed by this government, the more Nigerians will be angry and annoyed.
Barrister Ezaluche, thank you so much for your time on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you very much.
All right. Meanwhile, Kingsley Obiora, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, has been reportedly arrested by the Department of State Services. According to a report, his arrest followed allegations of financial mismanagement under Godwin Emefiele, the suspended CBN governor. Obiora is the Deputy Governor of the Apex Bank in charge of economic policy. His arrest comes on the heels of an ongoing probe of CBN under the stewardship of Godwin Emefiele. You'll recall that Emefiele had been in the custody of the DSS since June 10, 2023, a day after President Bola Tinubu removed him from office. In July, Tinubu appointed a special investigator, Jim Obazi, to oversee the probe of the activities of the Apex Bank under Emefiele. DSS and CBN spokespersons Dr. Peter Afunaya and Dr. Isa Abdumumin, respectively, are yet to respond to questions from inquiries by journalists regarding the arrest. Meanwhile, the Abia State government has denied allegations by the People's Democratic Party that it is planning to mobilize protests to influence the outcome of elections tribunal sitting in the state. It also denied the claims by the PDP that the government and the Labour Party are planning to cause mayhem in the state should the outcome of the ruling go against them. In a statement signed by Mr. Ferdinand Ijeoma, the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to Governor Alex Otti, he described the allegations as peddled by corrupt leaders whose situation has become pathetic due to lack of access to public funds. He equally described the PDP allegations as misleading fabrication and infantile strategy. It said Otti and his party, Labour Party, have been busy with governance while the PDP has been spreading endless propaganda to misinform the public about events at the Election Petition Tribunal. Ijeoma advised security agencies to swing into action and nip PDP's alleged nefarious plots in the bud. Meanwhile, former presidential aide Reno Omokri has tackled supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, over the call for a military coup. In the wake of the Niger and Gabon coup, some Nigerians have linked it to the outcome of the 2023 election being challenged at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal by Peter Obi and the People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. VOP News gathered that in a post via Twitter, Reno said the actions of Labour Party supporters thinking the military coup will put Obi in power are not only treasonous but also delusional. The political activist averred that the ongoing detention of the indigenous people of Biafra leader Nnamdi Kanu would have taken a different turn if it was a military regime. He also noted that the Biafra secessionist movement would be dealt with rather than the current middle-of-the-hand approach. He tweeted, "To those obedient calling for a coup and thinking that the envisaged coup will put Peter Obi in power, not only are the actions treasonous, that he doesn't know why the president is tolerating it. ESN and IPOB have killed several soldiers. That is one of the reasons why Nnamdi Kanu is being held in custody. The only reason he is being treated like he is because there is a democratically elected civilian administration." End quote. To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. NLC declares 2-day warning strike over hardship citizens face. CBN Deputy Governor Obiora reportedly arrested by the DSS. Abia government, PDP trade words over alleged plot to influence election tribunal judgment. And Reno Omokri tackles obedience. That's a wrap on the world news at 6 right here in Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Nwachukwu. Good evening and thank you for staying with us. Up next is the Evening Rush with Precious.
Around the world, non-stop. This is Voice of the People.